Let's jump right into this fascinating explainer. We usually think of maturity as, growing up fast, taking on heavy adult responsibilities, or learning how to act serious and professional. But the text we're analyzing today, written by Xu Shifeng, totally flips that conventional wisdom on its head. It basically argues that what modern society calls maturity is often just a really destructive performance, and that true maturity is something way more profound, rooted entirely in the laws of nature. Here is how we'll structure our journey today. First, the law of natural maturity. Second, the premature maturity trap. Third, distortions of human maturity. And finally, living in true nature.
So, let's start right off with Section 1, the law of natural maturity.
The author's foundational premise here is that everything in nature has a perfect, completely undisturbed timeline. To understand human maturity, the text argues we first have to look at how nature handles the concept of readiness. Think about fruit. If you pick it too early, it's sour, coarse, and honestly just unappealing, right? But if you let it ripen naturally, it's delicate, sweet, and highly nutritious. The author makes a huge point here. Fruit that's picked before it's ripe and then artificially left on a counter to soften up, that's not real ripeness. It's essentially a fake maturity. Let's build on that with another natural example. The author applies this exact same logic to seeds stored in a granary. A truly mature seed isn't just physically full. The text states its non-material structure is flawless, and its vitality is literally abundant. It has absolutely everything it needs to naturally sprout, flower, and bear fruit down the line. If you harvest that seed prematurely, well, you permanently disrupt its innate life force.
So how does this map onto us? The text scales this natural law up to human beings, arguing that a truly mature person flows exactly like water, flexible, smooth, adapting to absolutely any shape without hitting obstacles. True human maturity means uniting seamlessly with heaven, earth, and humanity. It's about maintaining harmony with the universe entirely without self-interest and merging with the Tao, the natural order, without clinging to individual desires or possessions. Only in this state, the author claims, can a person reach a truly enlightened, heavenly existence. Which leads us straight into Section 2, the premature maturity trap. If true maturity is like flowing water and naturally ripening fruit, the author argues that modern society is basically a machine constantly forcing us out of our natural rhythms. If you look at the human life cycle, every single stage is supposed to display its own unique, unburdened characteristics. Childhood is literally a time for play. Adolescence is meant for high spirits. Youth is a time for dreams and pure joy. You can't skip these stages any more than a piece of fruit can skip its time on the branch.
And here's where the critique gets intense. The author views our modern societal pressures as fundamentally inhumane and completely against the Tao. Think about it. We ban kids from playing and force them into strict obedience and endless academics. We crush teenagers under the weight of heavy study burdens instead of letting them be high-spirited. We tell young adults to drop their dreams and join this cutthroat, practical struggle for survival. Even adults are often told they have to endure severe hardship and suffering just to achieve spiritual growth. The text argues that any system forcing you to suppress your fundamental nature just to act adult isn't just unnecessary, it violates the very laws of creation.
All right, moving into Section 3, distortions of human maturity.
To really wrap our heads around the author's perspective, we have to completely reset our conventional definition of maturity. Premature maturity is totally counterproductive because it's just so performative. If you spend every day trying to show off how mature or professional you are just to gain praise, you aren't actually mature. True maturity is simply living entirely in your own natural state, period. Now, applying this philosophy directly to society, the author takes a very firm traditional stance against blended traits. Neutrally reporting the text perspective here, it argues against what society typically praises. For instance, society might praise a woman who is graceful but highly capable, or a man who is strong but internally very gentle, viewing them as highly evolved. But the author explicitly argues these blended traits are actually twisted, unnatural distortions of maturity. In this framework, men must simply be men, and women must simply be women. Straying from those innate, categorical baselines is viewed as a violation of natural law.
The text firmly anchors this highly controversial viewpoint by comparing these blended human traits to the animal kingdom to show what it considers absurdity. The author states, "We'd never consider a hen that crows and lays eggs to be a mature hen, nor would a rooster that crows and lays eggs be mature. A rooster that crows in its own time and a hen that lays eggs in its own time, that is true maturity." The text uses some stark language here, stating that when animals stop performing their natural functions, it's time for them to be slaughtered. It's a vivid, forceful metaphor used to underscore just how destructive the author believes it is to deviate from your innate nature.
That brings us to our final section, living in true nature. Moving past the societal critiques, the explainer hits us with the author's ultimate philosophical solution, starting with a brilliant rhetorical question. Imagine standing in front of a peach tree and giving it a lecture. Hey, you should grow well, maintain your peach tree nature, don't get lured by those pear trees, and make sure your peaches actually taste like peaches. It sounds completely ridiculous, right?
Exactly, and this highlights the core philosophy. The peach tree already understands natural laws way better than we do. It naturally knows how to harmonize. The author argues that humans have absolutely no business trying to guide or educate the fundamental nature of living things. Our only job? Provide water and fertilizer. We should nurture the environment, not dictate the outcome. Applying that peach tree logic back to us leads to a truly striking claim. The author says that true spiritual perfection isn't achieved through decades of suffering or studying profound theories or forcing yourself to act like an adult. If you live in your true nature, you're already perfectly united with the universe. Therefore, a 3 to 5-year-old child whose spirit is still completely untainted by society's expectations is literally already in the state of a celestial being.
Because of this, the author warns that over-intervention is incredibly dangerous. There's no need to deliberately guide and educate a child on how to be spiritually perfect. Actually, when a natural prodigy is carefully micromanaged by so-called experts, their true innate talent is usually just obscured and buried. Just like picking a fruit before it's ready, our desperate attempts to force maturity only serve to destroy it.
So, what does this all mean for us? Based on this entire framework of natural law versus forced societal expectations, I want to leave you with a provocative thought to reflect on today. Take a close look at your own life, your routines, the pressure you put on yourself. Are you living in your true, unobstructed nature, flowing like water and ripening in your own time? Or are you just performing someone else's version of maturity? Keep that in mind as you navigate the world today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.